And good evening, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum for the Town of Grand Rapids Chair. And the candidates for this position this evening are Arne Nystrom and David Gorski, two candidates for one position. My name is Sue Mitchell, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters as the moderator for this evening's forum for this position. And the League thanks the candidates for their willingness to both run for public office and appear here tonight. And I would remind you that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization, and it does not support any party or any candidate or any political party. So we will begin tonight's forum with these two candidates, and David Gorski will be going first, and he may give his opening statement, 2-minute statement, and then Arne Nystrom will after David Gorski. So David Gorski.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank the League for inviting me to be here. And a little bit about myself. I've been living in Grand Rapids for 18 years. I moved to Grand Rapids because of the quality of life. Love Lake Wazeecha. I ride my bike around that lake nearly every day in the summer. I swim in it, I fish in it, I ice fish in it. I won't say I catch much, but I enjoy being there. And I believe that town boards function best when all members have an equal voice. And I have a lot of experience as a facilitator and a collaborator. I worked for the Nakusa school system for 18 years, and I chaired a few committees there. One was a committee called the Middle School Concept Committee. And what we did, we were sort of a site-based management committee where we actually made policy. We came up with a really good discipline policy and also a really good academic improvement policy. I also chaired the alternative education committee, and we started the Nakusa Academy. So, and I also have a lot of experience with grant writing and budgets. I wrote over $590,000 in grants for drug and alcohol abuse prevention and alternative education, and I had to administer those budgets and make sure the projects went and collect all the data and make the reports at the end. So, I have 30 seconds. So I don't know if I need to say too much more, but really I'm running because I believe in community service. You know, since I got to this area in 1992, I've been involved with, well, the Road Group, which is the Nakusa Drug and Alcohol Prevention Community Group. I was president of that for 10 years, and I'm with Clean Green Action. So I believe in giving back to my community, and Grand Rapids is a fantastic community.
Thank you, David Gorski, and we will move on to Arne Nystrom.
Thank you so much to the League of Women Voters, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, for taping this. As I said, I'm Arne Nystrom. I'm running for re-election to the town board as their chairman. I've lived in the town for 40-plus years. I've been married to my wife, Mary Ann, for 46 years. I have one child and 2 grandchildren. I've been a supervisor or a chairman since 1995. I'm community-minded. I've been in the Lions Club for 40 years. I've served on the Wood County Crime Stopper Board, and I sit on the Curriculum Advisory Committee for Mid-State Technical College. I believe in providing the needed services that the town citizens want at the most fiscally responsible costs. I pushed for and supported the town's municipal court, which quadrupled the revenue that we retained from any violation tickets that are issued in our town. I sit on the Airport Commission as a vice chair. I've been deeply involved in the over $5.2 million in grants that we received to upgrade our parking and the safety of our runways. I've been a strong supporter for our police and fire departments. I supported the town developing the 24-hour police service and the full-time investigator. I look forward to your questions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you both for your thank you to both of you for your opening statements. And before we move on to the questions, let me remind the listening audience that you're welcome to call in with questions you would like for these candidates to answer, and that number is 715-423-0441. And those of you here in the audience, you're welcome to hold up your hand if you need a card to write a question on, and we'll be happy to include those. So moving forward now, we'll begin with the questions, and these will be answered within the 2-minute time limit. And the first question will go to Arne Nystrom. And the question is, what do you think is the biggest stumbling block facing Grand Rapids?
That's pretty easy. If you followed state government at all, you know we've been under levy limits for many, many years now. Through the funding that was initially generated by the state in the form of sales tax was supposed to be returned to the communities at a 90% rate, and the state holding on to 10%. Now I just heard recently that the state is holding on to 82%, and 18% is now coming back to our communities. Over the course of the years, our shared revenue has been cut. Towns, cities, villages had to live within a levy limit with increases in costs of wages, insurance, and fuel and other things. It's been difficult. The town of Grand Rapids had to do some reorganizations by cutting some staffing, going from a full-time building inspector to a part-time, and we've look at that as our #1 cost. The last thing I'll mention is road aids. Road aids are fortunately increasing to us, but they're still not enough for us. We continually have to borrow for additional revenues.
Thank you, Arne Nystrom. David Gorski?
Well, I'll have to agree with everything Arne said. I know that the shared revenue issue has been a problem throughout the state. All communities are having a problem keeping up with road construction. So it's no different in Grand Rapids. And, you know, we just have to find efficiencies where we can and make do without putting an added burden onto the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you, David Gorski. And moving on now to the next question, and David Gorski, you will answer this one first. What is the town's biggest asset? And if you could change one thing in the town, what would it be?
Well, I think the biggest asset in the town is, first of all, it's a residential community. It's a great place to live. There's a lot of places to take a walk with your family, to walk your pets, dogs. And Lake Wazeecha is amazing. I mean, that's a big reason why I live in Grand Rapids. I don't think there's very many communities in the state that have a 4.1 walking, hiking, biking trail around a lake. So it's just, I think that's the asset, that it is a totally residential community. It's a very safe place to live in. And I think it has a lot of very responsible residents. In 2018, this last election, 84% of the people in Grand Rapids came out to vote. So that shows you how engaged the community is. So I think we have an amazing community, great people, and a beautiful environment.
Thank you, David Gorski. And now moving on to Arne Nystrom.
Obviously, the greatest asset for the community is our community, the people that are in it. We have a great population of pushing 8,000. It's probably in the 77, 48 range. I think it's the last number I heard. It's a lot of residents. We get a lot of information back and forth from them. We have a great 7-member planning commission that is made up of individuals with great backgrounds in planning and zoning and administering of everything. So we have ourselves set up as a great community. I also believe that our walking trails are the greatest thing. I've been pushing for it, and I'm going to try it one more time to get the walking trail, which is the old railroad right-of-bed, tied into that 4.1 mile trail and have a nice tie-in. I've been pushing that for years. Don't seem to get any traction, but I am going to take one more stab at it to try to get that done. And again, it's the people in the town that are the greatest asset.
Thank you, Arne Nystrom. And now we'll move on to the next question, which you will begin answering. And that question is, what are your feelings on municipal borrowing, and can that be sustained long-term?
Can it be sustained long-term? Absolutely. We've been borrowing for years for equipment, and that's primarily our source of what we have to do. If you're going to buy a new grader to take care of the roads, you got $180,000. Years ago, when we didn't have levy freezes, we may borrow that out, or we may even take it out of revenues and tax the current public for it. However, that's just not, the funds are not available anymore. The only way you can purchase stuff like that is on loans. We have about $490,000 in loans outstanding, where the actual levy limit number that we could borrow, this town has the borrowing capacity over 24 million, so we're using a very tiny little bit of our borrowing capacity, and I expect we can keep that the same.
Thank you. David Gorski.
Well, you obviously have to borrow, but I think it's a good idea to keep borrowing down as far as you can. One thing we might be able to do is segregate some funds out from money we get when we provide services to the town of Saratoga and the town of Grant. So there might be some things we can do to bring down the budgeting in Grand Rapids.
Okay, thank you, David Gorski. And the next question will begin with David Gorski. What do you feel are the main concerns of the town of Grand Rapids residents?
Well, I've been out there knocking on doors, and people are concerned about roads. They're concerned about plowing. And now with all the branches down, a lot of people are asking, well, can't we have some kind of a, brush pickup? So those are the type of things that I hear. And I know the whole thing about plowing, I'm sure the crew does its best on that, and everybody has an opinion about it, I guess. We can look at that and see, is there a way we could do it better? I mean, this was a very unusual year for snow. Kind of got clobbered all right at the end here, and I know the snow and ice on my street built up quite a bit. But I'm not a, I guess I'm kind of a person that I'm an understanding person. And I realize that, it's just a tough year for the crew. But maybe with the experience from this year, we can think about that a little bit on the side streets. Maybe there's something we can do to scrape off a little bit of that so there isn't so much water in driveways when it melts. And personally, I would like to see some brush pickup, because when I lived in Rapids, we had that helped a lot. I know when I worked in Nakusa for the school district, for Make a Difference Day, we just raked all the leaves to the side of the road and put the branches on the side, and they picked it up. I think that's something we could look at to do in Grand Rapids. I think a lot of the residents would appreciate that.
All right, thank you, David Gorski. And now moving on to Arne Nystrom.
Would you repeat that just so I get the actual
Certainly,
content?
I'd be happy to do
Thank
that
you.
anytime. What do you feel are the main concerns of the town of Grand Rapids residents?
Well, I probably have a first-hand knowledge of that. Is I obviously have a phone number listed in the Wisconsin Rapids phone directory. They have my number. Even those folks that don't have access to town's website, where they could find my town cell phone, get a hold of me. I get a hold of calls as late as 10:30 earlier this last week when we had all the flooding. That was our biggest concern. Overall, the concerns I get from the people are why do you plow so much? And then the next minute I'll get a call, why do you not plow? There are honestly people that have said that, these couple-inch snowfalls, you don't need to be taking care of it. But some of those we tried to do work in advance, knowing what was coming in the forecast. We tried to forecast the snowfall and decision whether we needed to scrape what was on the road off The issue we have with scraping is we have just 2 vehicles that do that. One is a grader and one is a new truck with what's called an undercarriage plow. Overall, I do not get calls from residents when they're concerned on much other than roads. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Arne Nystrom, this will be a question for you to begin with. What is the most daunting, or what are the most daunting budgeting challenges of Grand Rapids?
Well, there are obviously every line item in our budget is a daunting process. If we're trying to maintain a full-time police department with investigator staff and retain a high ranking in safety, we need to support it. I believe our police department budget is in the neighborhood of $700,000 total, with revenue coming in from ticket sales. Yeah, I wish we could sell them. Fred, you want to buy one? No, you didn't. Okay. Tickets coming in, and then we take that down, and that goes down to about 23 to 24 cents per person per day. To me, it's a reasonable number. In order to maintain it, though, it's difficult with levy limits. The state, believe it or not, is offering in the budget the opportunity that we may be able to increase it by an additional 2% this coming budget term. 2% is really only amounts to about $30,000 for the town, so that's not a lot. We need more help than that. That's quite frankly. Thank you.
Sue, could you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. It is, what are the most daunting budget challenges for Grand Rapids?
I think it has to do with balance. You know, certainly we need police, fire protection, and we have to fix our roads at the same time. And so I think, and we have to look at other services to the community and just balancing all that out in a fair way. So I'm not going to point to one thing in particular, but I just think that all of those things need to have a balance.
Okay, moving on to the next question, and David Gorski, you will begin this one. Are there areas where spending is excessive?
That's a good one, and it's hard for me to answer that because I don't know all the ins and outs. I've heard some things, but I don't want to say it because I don't know that it's true. So I don't know is my answer.
Okay, thank you. Arne Nystrom?
I would emphatically say no, and I say that because we go through a real strong budget process. Some communities will have a couple of people putting the budget together and present it to the city, village, or whatever, and that's it. We go through it line by line by line with all board members. On the average, we hold 3 to 5 budget meetings before we get to that. And obviously, we're set on levy limits, so we're allocating where can we best put the money that we have available for ourselves. What loans are we paying off this year where we may be able to take another loan in that same amount to keep the tax rate as close to what it currently is? We do our best to take care of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question, which Arne Nystrom, you will begin. What is the bidding process for the town of Grand Rapids projects, and do you think it could be improved?
Currently, we haven't had to do much bidding other than a road that we just did. We were fortunate to get to a TRIP grant month, which paid 50% of a road project up to a total of $20,000 in grant money to us. However, that required us to actually do a bid process. So the bid processing actually turned out to be good for us. The project came under the initial estimates, so we ended up with about $4,000 left over of this tax money from the state. which we can apply to another road project this year. Overall, it's $25,000 limit, and we very seldom get anything over that. We do see quotes on services and or purchases always.
Okay, David Gorski.
Well, I think it's important that all bidding is a fair and competitive process. It sounds like there isn't a whole lot of bidding that happens, but when it does, we want to make sure everybody has a fair shot at it, and we get the best deal for the community.
Okay, thank you to both of you. The next question, David Gorski, you will begin with this one. What does the town of Grand Rapids do as far as recycling?
I think we do a pretty good job with recycling. I know I put mine out every week. All the different recyclables go into the same container, and from there they're sorted, and whatever can be recycled is recycled. So I think I'm happy with it. All the paper that I generate, I put in a paper bag, and it's picked up. Also, we have Choose to Reuse, which I think is a really important recycling program, in that there's a lot of things that people don't want that other people want. So one person's trash is another person's treasure. I've volunteered at several of those, and it's amazing how much stuff comes in and goes out. And anything that isn't usable, like refrigerators and microwaves and ovens, and we've had big chests of freezer chests, and those all go into a dumpster, giant dumpster, and it's taken to the appropriate place. So I think recycling is important for our community. It keeps things like plastic and metals that don't break down in landfills out of landfills. So I think, to me, we're doing a good job.
Okay, Arne Nystrom.
I believe our numbers, and I do not have them with me today or whatever, are above state average. I do know we offer weekly recycling. Not everybody has everything out every week, and I can tell you I don't, because I fill a larger container that rolls out to the curb every third week or so. Choose to Reuse has been a long-term project for us. It does end up being well used. Unfortunately, some people take advantage of it and bring stuff that is truly not wanting to be used by somebody else and try to just get rid of it because maybe it's large or whatever. We're fortunate enough that we're getting sponsorship of a dumpster, so some of that stuff can be put in if at the end of the day they find nobody wants to take it, they can take it, and it's hopefully gone. Thank you.
All right, thank you for answering all those questions, and that was the last one. I don't think I announced that before. So that was the last one, and we will begin with the closing statements. And Arne Nystrom, you will go first.
Thank you again to the League. This is probably the 7th or 8th time that I've actually had a candidate against me, and I welcome to have him here this evening. One of the things I'm most proud of is just recently, town of Grand Rapids was named the #1 safest city in the community of Wisconsin, in the state of Wisconsin, by SafeWise Community Stats. This is the 4th year that we've been named in the top 15. We've been as low as 13th best to the 7th to the 4th, and now the #1 safest community. Now, it doesn't just mean the town itself, our police department, that makes a city safe or a community safe. It's the public. Our chief has an open door policy and welcomes people into his office at all time. Our staff in the front office takes many calls for people with concerns about whether it's a drug home or something else. We do our best to keep this town safe. We believe in community policing. We have a great fire department that has contracts with Saratoga and the town of Grant, and we do the best we can to keep our community safe. We provide smoke alarms free of charge from the American Red Cross through our fire department. that requires us to actually have one of our firemen go in and install them, plus give the family a small talk about fire safety. And again, I thank you for this forum, and I hope that I receive your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Arne Nystrom. And now David Gorski.
Again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and viewers out there. And yeah, I'm, as I mentioned before, I'm running to be of service to my community. It's a great community, and quite frankly, I appreciate all the work that Arne and the rest of the board has done, because they're all public servants. So that's why I'm running. I want to be a public servant and do whatever I can to help the town of Grand Rapids. I think one of the reasons I'm running is I see myself, and I have a lot of experience in this, as being a good facilitator and a good collaborator and a good organizer. And so I bring those skills to the town of Grand Rapids, and I think I can get, I think I can do a good job of bringing in the wishes of the community, and also to work with the board in a way that everybody has an equal voice. I don't see myself as the president of the board, if I would win. I see myself as a person who facilitates the meetings and makes sure that everybody's ideas are included. I have this little saying that I came up with, and that is that I believe the collective intelligence of a group is greater than any one person. So I really believe in listening to everybody's ideas very carefully and try to come up with some kind of a synergy. And a lot of times, you know, it might not be something I particularly believe in. Maybe somebody disagrees with me, but I find if I incorporate their ideas into whatever project it is, it usually turns out better. So I'm a good listener, facilitator, collaborator, organizer, and I hope I get your vote on the 2nd of April. And before that, we have early voting right up until, what is it, 29th of March at the Grand Rapids Hall. So.
All right, thank you very much to our two candidates for the Town of Grand Rapids Chair, Arne Nystrom and David Gorski. Best of luck in the April 2nd election.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please stay tuned for the next forum that will feature Town of Grand Rapids supervisors.